Anyone older than 10 remembers the time when live action was considered the medium for grown-ups, whereas animation was the medium for kids. I mean, who would watch weirdly dressed dudes fighting energy attacks at each other and would still consider it adult material? He would obviously prefer live action for being down to earth, simple stories about simple people in a mundane setting. Yet look what has happened over the past decade when millions of adults are now watching weirdly dressed dudes firing energy attacks at each other, whereas animation is simple stories about simple people in a mundane setting. It's not a complete flip of the roles, since we still get a bit of everything in both mediums, but the uncanny valley between animation and live action has shrunk considerably. The prime reason being the progress in visual effects. Can you imagine something like The Avengers being made in the 60s without the CGI aid? It would look laughable. Can you imagine something like Showa Genroku being made in the 60s when character designs looked very simplistic? Nobody would be able to take it seriously. The thing with special effects is that they take a lot of time and money in order to look nice. You don't simply slap CGI on the screen and you're done. The thing that was making anime more attractive to cartoons up until the Double O's was the clear difference in detailed art styles and theme exploration. The reason more and more people prefer modern cartoons over modern anime is exactly because they are using special effects in a much more proficient way when it comes to detailed art styles and theme exploration. The anime industry has financial issues and slaps cheap CGI everywhere, not taking any risks and producing mostly throwaway series about cute girls doing cute things. And if you think I am praising Pretty Colors as the only thing that matters, I am definitely not doing that. Traditionally, live action was inspired by real life. It was creating a simulation of reality. Animation was used mostly for escapism and fantasy empowerment. What was making Hayao Miyazaki's movies to stand out was him being inspired by real life. His infamous quotes of anime being a mistake and modern animation an insult to life itself was referring to his disappointment with how meta everything became. His generation was inspired by reality when creating animation. The current generation, on the other hand, is inspired by older animation instead of real life. This makes it distant from what is currently happening in the world. I am not saying anime of today are not tackling the social issues of the era they were made in, but they are definitely focusing a lot on subverting stereotypes, to the point everything is an in-joke and self-indulgent to the max.
It's subversion! You didn't see that coming!
The improvement of special effects is making it easier for live action to be about fantasy empowerment and animation tackling social issues. But no matter how much technology improves, it will never be able to replace visual storytelling simply with visual fidelity. And if you don't believe me, let me body swap.
Anime visuals are at a high point. People care about them more than ever. Unfortunately, anime storytelling, not quite at the same level.
There you go. Fiction which addresses reality will always be better than fiction that references other fiction. The new Pokemon series began, and people are divided between liking the much better animation and hating the simpler designs. Although I am not interested in Pretty Colors as I am about the writing, I have a few things to say about animation versus detailed artwork. The most obvious difference is how animation is about motion, so things are constantly moving, as opposed to artwork which needs to be still so people can notice the details. The former is used for action, to cause raw emotions and grab the attention of an indifferent viewer. The latter is used for building atmosphere, to immerse the viewer into the setting or the mentality of the character. It is more mental since it gives you time to think and filter what you are seeing. Both are vital in every show, but they cannot be used to their fullest since it takes a lot of time and money to have both smooth animation and no off-model designs. This is why sacrifices must be made, and depending on what the show is focusing on, they are used in different ratios. If the setting is not important, there is not much need for detailed backgrounds, since it's more about what the characters are doing in the foreground. Character designs are vital in order for the cast to be appealing or attractive, but if the show is about a slapstick comedy or mindless action instead of character appeal, then fluent motions are more important than how they look. So it really comes down to simply figuring out what a show or scene focuses on the most. Pokemon is a kid show about colorful creatures fighting each other with flashy energy attacks. The setting doesn't matter compared to what the creatures are doing, and even lacks consistency since the plot is mostly episodic. Animation is far more important than detailed designs. Something like Mushishi, on the other hand, is far more about the setting and the atmosphere than how smoothly the characters look or move, which is why it focuses a lot more on detailed backgrounds and slow motions, so the viewer can be immersed into its world. This doesn't mean the silly face the protagonist in Pokemon has now, or characters walking fun in Mushishi are not big issues. They are just not the main priority and should not be treated as if they matter the most. I found this guy who was wondering why something so good as Concrete Revolutio gets a lot of hate. It is not very popular or even high rated. It has a social criticism, so it should be talked a lot like Psycho-Pass. And it's about the superheroes, so it should be as popular as One Punch Man. And it's full of tributes to all the Sentai and Mahou Shoujo, so it should be loved by retro fans. And it's made by Bones, one of the most lovable anime studios. So why doesn't everybody love this show? And the answer is the same for any show Bones has made without following a pre-existing source material to the letter. The storyboard is a scrambled mess of complete chaos. It's impossible to follow it without taking notes of a complicating non-linear sequence of events that comes down to characters from a dozen different genres doing all sorts of crazy shit. The few defenders of this show are trying to excuse it as if the average viewer is too lazy to keep track of non-linear plots, thus gets easily confused and drops the show after giving it a bad score. This is a show for smart people, and because there are very few smart people, it is not appreciated as much as it should. Let me reassure you that this excuse is bullcrap. Since I am smart, I love retro, I am fond of social criticism, I like superheroes, and I still find this series to be awful. I hate the designs, the plot is too convoluted without necessarily being good, the themes are not explored well, and you are never given enough time to care about the characters because they keep jumping left and right in various different time periods. The ideas are good, the writing is not. The supporters of this mess will say that the writing doesn't matter as much as the presentation, and the presentation is a sakuga! If you don't know the term, it's basically making GIFs out of sequences of fluid animation that fill you with excitement because they look very good. Why is Concrete Revolutio good? Because a sakuga! Here, watch a few clips and be excited. And since you're excited, that means you're now motivated to start talking about the social criticism, the retro aesthetics, the hidden messages, and whatever bullshit crosses your mind because a sakuga! In other words, the only people who like the show are sensualists. As long as they have a feels, they don't care about proper pacing or characterization. The presentation is all that matters, and it's great because you can make cool GIFs out of it. What these idiots don't understand is that the presentation cannot be zipped down to a few seconds of explosions. It's a sequence of events not different from directing or cinematography. All they care about is instant gratification, and don't realize that in the grand scheme of things, the show is an awful mess. Fuck Sakuga. When people ask for anime analysts, a name that usually pops up is Mother's Basement. He's analyzing openings and scenes in great detail, thus excusing why certain parts of an episode work so well. The thing is, what he's talking about has to do with scene composition and directing. He hardly cares if a show is good because of the script or the characters, and he basically boils it down to, hey, look at those pretty colors, aren't they amazing? This can only mean that the show is amazing as well. Most of you call me a troll for analyzing a show instead of hyping the fuck out of it, when what I actually do is focusing on the things that matter the most, which is not the fucking directing, it's the writing and the characters. I also don't understand how me expecting a series to be shit by simply reading the premise is wrong, while everybody are hyping a guy who's essentially evaluating a whole series simply by its opening. He judges shows by how well they are presented instead of how well they are written, which is important in terms of entertainment, but in the long run the former is just a distraction from critical thinking. To be more specific, he loves a series such as Plastic Memories, Your Lie in April, and Erased, just because they look nice in terms of directing. And what do we know about this series? They are nothing but emotional manipulation through horseshit writing. I know they were meant to be exactly that, and that we shouldn't dislike them for aiming at emotional faggotry instead of critical thinking, but we should also not forgive them for fooling the senses, manipulating emotions, and blinding critical thinking. And if you dare to say that there is absolutely nothing bad about all that since it does not harm us in our daily lives, guess who's going to become the next president of the United States? In yet another example of why writing is more important than directing, I found this video which praises Grimgar for its attention to action. I don't disagree with what he said about what makes battle choreography interesting, but I do find the whole thing to be wasted effort if it doesn't serve the narrative. In my video about Grimgar, I pointed out how dull everything is in this show, since the characters have no backdrop story. I can say the same thing about the setting in general. You know nothing about it besides some very generic RPG terminology. Who gives a shit about how well the action scenes are made if you are not given anything to care about the characters while fighting or the setting in which the battles take place? It's not the attention to physics that makes an action scene interesting. It offers realism but not immersion. Sword of the Stranger, for example, has the best choreographed sword fights in any anime ever made. But this is not the only thing that is good about it. Its characters are fairly simple, but they still have a backdrop and clear motivations. Even the setting, which isn't explored much, has some sort of context by letting us know it is feudal Japan. Japan. In the long run, realism in battle choreography is a very minor thing. You care 10 times more about whatever is going on during the battles just by having lore and explored characters. Sword fighting in Rurouni Kenshin, for example, is far from plausible, but that doesn't matter when we are interested in fleshed out characters and an explored setting. Some believe that Grimgar does that as well. Those people are wrong. Generic traits like being shy with big boobs is not personality, character classes and special abilities is not fleshing out, fighting generic monsters in a generic fantasy realm is not lore. The action doesn't improve anything. Although I keep saying pretty colors are not important, it doesn't mean I never pay attention to them. It's just that unlike you plebs, I notice them when they go missing instead of being the only thing I care about when I want to excuse a 10 out of 10. Here are 3 examples. The most obvious one is Terraformers. The first season was a pile of shit but had an amazing opening song and the artwork was pretty damn good. This is completely gone in the second season where the art style became cartoonier, the music became forgettable and the violence toned down considerably. The only thing that was good about it was the gore fest and they changed the whole series to seem like it's for kids. The second example is the Ace Attorney adaptation where we have a similar situation. Notice how more dynamic and flamboyant is the game art style compared to the anime. With that missing, the anime feels like it's a low-budget show full of mentally challenged adults. And the third example is the 4th arc of JoJo, which has decreased its fidelity. It's not very damaging and can easily be excused as the animators going for 80s pop art, but the difference compared to the previous seasons is obvious. I could go on by mentioning how cheap Dragon Ball Super looks compared to Dragon Ball Z, or how more appealing the 3rd arc of Sailor Moon Crystal is to the eye compared to the other two. Some things are clearly more beautiful than others, and there are objective criteria about it, as this recent School of Life video confirms. And you know what? In the long run, it doesn't matter even when I notice it, because no amount of pretty colors can save an atrociously written story, or no amount of fancy-sounding premises can save an awful plot. And until you understand that, I will be making fun of you.
Mother's Basement is a scum of the earth who got popular by overanalyzing anime openings. By spewing whatever bullshit comes to mind about whatever is popular at the moment, he made himself to appear smart in the eyes of pretentious overthinkers. When in reality he's not smart at all. He's just making up bullshit about shows he doesn't follow and yet tries to evaluate them based solely on their fucking openings.
The emotions at play here are conveyed in crystal clarity through this opening. I would assume I haven't actually gotten around to watching more than a few episodes of the show, and I really need to, because I know that when I do, it's going to be one of my favorites.
I haven't read it, but I can say it's my favorite book ever.
Mother's Basement is everything that is wrong with modern anime. Not only he judges books by their covers, he also has the nerve to consider pretty colors as depth to something, as proven by the kind of woman his girlfriend is.
And if that's not a testament to the strength of its direction and storyboarding, I don't know what is.
Some of you think that Mother's Basement owned me when he commented on my video. I am here to prove that the winner of this conflict is not only me, but I also didn't even need to reply in any of these comments. Others did it for me. Let's start with this huge comment he made that is supposed to have completely destroyed me. In a following comment he complains about brevity. My video was too stuffed with information, but he otherwise complains about it and then expects the posters to be going straight to the point. Double standards, anyone? Not to mention how his original post was huge and far from going straight to the point. Therefore, he is doing the exact same thing he was complaining about in the other comment. How about this charming comment where he claims he won because I don't have as many subs as he does? What kind of a critical thinker would be using this bottom rank fallacy only the worst of tasteless casuals are using? On the contrary, remember when Kalak Ninja attacked me? Did I say fuck you, you have less subs than I do? Or did I make a response video where I exposed his horseshit? Exactly as I do now. And then there is this charming part of that huge comment he made where he defends Erased by saying the directing was proving that the writing was amazing. Fucking bullshit! Everything about this show is awful, and no matter how much you try to make it seem it's great, it will now be used as evidence against you. Yes, I will use your videos to burn you, so your fanboys won't be able to defend the horseshit you've been doing or claiming writing is less important than directing. And remember, this is not my fault.
fault, it's yours. You messed with the wrong snub.
When it's worn by characters, red symbolizes emotional warmth and vulnerability, but when it's seen in the environment, it signifies impending danger.
Really? What about the red eyes? Are they worn or are they part of the environment? Oh, that's right, they are neither. They are just red herrings to make someone look suspicious. Thus, a third usage of the same color you did not bother to mention, as well as proof that red can mean whatever the fuck the director wants it to mean in a specific scene. There is no overall meaning for it in the show.
The entire series has been subconsciously priming us for this episode, creating the association between red and danger so that it can use it to ratchet up the tension.
No shit, red means danger. This is something nobody knows of. And it's totally not a lazy way to hammer what is blatantly obvious.
We see what he's thinking about as he walks, the signs that Hinazuki's mother is abusing her. This is pretty ingenious in how it serves multiple narrative purposes. This is a great example of adding information density to a story.
What exactly is ingenious when you're showing the obvious, and you go as far as skipping the picture in grayscale so the eye can focus on a specific red spot as if we are too stupid to get it ourselves?
This shot of her mother abusing her is gut-wrenchingly powerful. If warm colors symbolize emotion, then this saturated violent red represents something very raw and unpleasant.
It's hard to admit to this, but even Digibro saw through this bullshit.
Beating the viewer over the head with the point. How do we codify the various themes of violence running through the show? Make sure that everything related to violence is spot-colored red, the universal representation of violence.
Oh me gee, I agree with Digibro for once, I might as well marry the guy. But in the meantime, let's go back to what else he said.
It's a mark of a great mystery show when you can rewatch a previous episode and pick up on new details like that.
Oh, now it's great mystery, even when the killer is obvious from the very beginning and there is no deduction procedure done by anyone. What does my BF have to say about that?
How can we clue the audience in to who the villain is going to be so that they can feel smart for figuring it out before the big reveal? Make him blatantly creepy and hide his face in the shadows every single time he comes on screen. What the point is of loading a show with symbolism if none of that symbolism is going to be remotely subtle?
There, see, that wasn't very hard to get. But then again, his video was made when the show was in its first episodes, and everybody was refusing to believe there is something wrong with this perfect series. So as you see, he's nowhere as critical as he thinks he is, and once again, I am better than all of you. What do you think, sweetheart?
No offense, Jeff, I still love you.
You cheater!
So there's been some stinky controversy surrounding Studio Mappa and Hell's Paradise. It looks fine. I don't think it's bad. I think it looks really good. I'm not concerned about Hell's Paradise looking bad. I'm not. I think that Hell's Paradise is going to look really good. I mean, once again, if we just go on record and look at everything that Studio Mappa has done, their shows look good. They look good. Anyone that tries to deny that, come on. Like, they look good. They do. I think people are definitely overreacting to this. I think it's just straight up an overreaction. Was it good? Well, to be completely frank, it was. It was an incredible first episode in the visual department. Art style always looks amazing. And nobody, I think, unless you're trolling, can deny that. I just want to say how striking the visual department is of these moments. Visual-wise, I really just like how they use the flowers to like the butterflies to the particle effects. And I noticed a lot about when it comes to Hell's Paradise, there's a lot of flowers within this story. There is a lot of people that are unhappy with the overall production of Hell's Paradise. All of it stems from art and animation. And I know this seems very shallow to mention because obviously anime isn't all about art and animation. But a lot of people that do watch shows, and let's keep it real, let's be adults, a lot of people that start anime probably watch it because of art and animation. Mostly art and animation is what people are really mentioning. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people like a very shiny product. That's the truth. People love a shiny project, and if it looks good, people are going to eat it up. Even if it is some of the middest thing that you've ever seen, people will eat that up if it looks absolutely breathtaking. The overall lackluster downgrade of the art in a lot of people's eyes to the production value of Hell's Paradise being rather lower than what people people are used to from Studio Mappa, to also it just being so hyped up that people were expecting something grand, but really, it doesn't seem like it has a lot going for it in a lot of people's eyes. Hell's Paradise is obviously disappointing a lot of people, and I've definitely seen a dwindling of conversation around the series as well, because of people's overall thoughts on it. There's a lot of people that I follow that even said they've dropped the show because they're just not feeling it anymore.
That Rev guy was asked why is he using a female VTuber model without changing his voice to sound like a girl. Even I thought it was weird. Either have a male model or change your voice to fit a female model. So in this video he explained he likes looking at cute anime girls, and that was his whole explanation, which he describes as not that deep. Although the actual explanation is a lot more elaborate. First of all, he doesn't want to have a voice that fits the gender of his model. This automatically means he doesn't care about gender characteristics. It's all just an image for him, just a piece of paper that can be interpreted however the fuck you want to. It's the same logic the queers are using so they can have 40-year-old men competing with 10-year-old girls and somehow always winning. If it's only about how you look or how you identify and it doesn't matter if you have a male voice or a dick, then what's the point of genders? Just social constructs, am I right? Here he is, preferring to look like a digital anime girl without attempting to sound like one. Because there is no definition for one. To him it's just a pretty image on the screen. That aside, having a male VTuber model or a voice changer is not solving the issue completely, since him and many others no longer show their real faces. Not only it's easier to edit a video when it has an avatar that can match what you say while taking out the bloopers, you are also a bit safer against doxing in case someone sees you in the street and attacks you for something that hurt his feelings. Plus, it's more pleasing to the eyes of people who are more used to anime and video games. Personally, I grew up without this nonsense. There were no digital models back in my time. You had to show your actual face. Even during the early years of YouTube, when there were no special effects yet. But then came the end of the video analysis era around the second half of the 2010s. Interest in reviewing and analysis lost a lot of steam because streaming became so fast, people didn't care about whether a movie or a series was worth it. They could check it out whenever they felt like it, and it wouldn't cost them a lot of money or a lot of time. So they were mostly watching videos for the commentary, meaning they didn't care about the title as much as they cared about the way someone was talking about the title. Basically, people got bored of looking at talking heads unless they were extremely beautiful or handsome. Personal charisma became very important because people wouldn't be watching you for what you had to say, they were watching you because of your natural beauty or charisma. It's what sites like Twitch have become these days. Nobody watches gamer girls for the games they are playing. So what could the vast majority of people do to keep up if they weren't beautiful or handsome? Well, not showing their faces was a solution, since people were not watching their videos for their faces, and they could only show images or clips of the thing they are talking about. But then copyright issues became severe, and the chances of flagging your video and shutting down your channel for using clips became high. Eventually, avatars blew up in popularity. Many had a cartoon they were voicing over so they wouldn't have to show themselves. It would hide a big part of the copyrighted material, and it would be more appealing to people who by this point had become very accustomed to anime and video games. And they wouldn't have to worry about makeup or growing older. No matter how they actually look, the avatar will always look the same. Then, as technology improved, VTubers became the next step after cartoon avatars. They were even more appealing to the eye of those accustomed to anime and video games because they move and emote. As before, you are not watching VTubers for the games they play or the shows they talk about. You watch them because they are cute or sexy. Because very few care anymore about what anyone is talking about. They are just staring at the screen and laugh at the jokes or get horny by the cute anime chicks. So now you have a situation where it's all about beauty, cringe zoomer comedy, and superficial shit. They don't care what you have to say if you are not handsome. I say that as someone who is constantly attacked for his looks, while people like Chibi are protected because they are manlets with a baby face. If you don't have natural beauty, they will be making fun of you instead of offering counterpoints to what you are saying. In case you missed it, there was a comic book owner some weeks ago who made a video about being ready to close down because nobody buys comics about gay superheroes. The queers attacked him and all they had to say was that he was ugly. They never attempted to prove him wrong, they just attacked his looks. That event created the term cancel pigs, but that is a different story. What I am getting at is that people gain mental scars by online harassment because of how they look and not necessarily if they did something wrong. It makes sense why a lot of them would choose to hide behind cartoon avatars and VTuber models. It's easier to edit the videos, it attracts more viewers, they are spared the Lookism, which is racism based on how you look, and they don't have to worry about everyone abandoning them just because they will begin to age after a few years. That red guy is one of many who think like that. Why show his real face when a cute anime girl will attract more people? Why worry about Lookism or growing old when anime avatars look cute and don't age? Would it help if he had a female voice? Sure, but his main concern is that he doesn't like his real face and he prefers to look at cute anime girls. And it's all the effect of Lookism that has now taken over everything. Non-existing cartoon faces are now treated as prettier than real faces. At this rate, almost anything that is real will be treated as ugly. And content creators will be more worried if the slut they use as an avatar doesn't show enough skin to give a boner to their audience than if whatever comes out of their mouth makes any sense. Because they will be attacked for the former, but not for the latter. If that's not pathetic, I don't know what it is.